Welcome to NFL Nexus, your home for deep dives into the strategy behind the game. You know, the NFL draft gets all the glory. The bright lights, the big names, the instant analysis on primetime TV. But what happens when all those cameras turn off and the seventh round finally ends? Well, that's when the real chess match of roster construction truly begins, in the quiet corridors of team facilities. Today, we're going to go under the hood of the Chicago Bears front office to analyze what really looks like a masterclass in post-draft maneuvering. We'll explore two fascinatingly different rookie acquisitions they made, a controversial high draft pick and a totally overlooked free agent, to reveal what appears to be a brilliant two-pronged approach to building a winning team. Look, any team can hit on a top 5 pick. A lot of times the board just makes the decision for you. But championships, they're built in the margins. They're put together by general managers and scouting departments who see value where other people just don't, who are willing to take a calculated risk on a second-round pick that makes all the analysts scratch their heads, or who find that diamond in the rough in the chaotic scramble for undrafted players. This is the art of unearthing the secret weapon, that player who wasn't on anyone's radar but becomes a key contributor. It's about finding treasure where everyone else just sees leftovers. And believe me, the Bears just gave us a perfect case study in how it's done. All right, let's get into our first case study. And this one, it starts with a little bit of drama. So the Bears came out of the first day of the draft looking like absolute geniuses. I mean, they landed a top-tier edge rusher and a dynamic wide receiver, filling two massive holes on their roster. The fans were ecstatic. The media was singing their praises. But then, on day 2, with the 57th overall pick in the second round, they selected center Logan Jones from the University of Iowa. And just like that, all that universal praise turned into widespread confusion. The pick immediately became a lightning rod for debate across the entire league. Was this a stroke of genius or a major blunder? The immediate consensus from the draft analysts, and it's summed up perfectly by this take from Bleacher Report, was that the Bears had reached for Jones. The critiques really focused on 3 key areas that are kind of red flags for NFL front offices. First, his age. Jones was an older prospect, which can be a concern for teams who want younger players with a higher ceiling for development and, more years before that big, expensive second contract comes knocking. Second, his size. He was seen as undersized for an NFL center, which raises some serious questions about his ability to anchor against the 330-pound behemoths he'd be facing every single week. And finally, the context of the draft itself. It was widely considered a really weak year for centers, leading a lot of people to believe the Bears just panicked and overdrafted to fill a need, paying a premium for a player who probably would have been available much, much later. And all of that negative chatter from analysts and scouts, it basically crystallized into the single, kind of damning letter grade, a C+. Now, in the world of instant draft analysis, a C+ is pretty much a polite way of saying, we don't get it at all. The core of the issue was value. A reach, for anyone who's not familiar with the term, is when a team picks a player way earlier than the consensus of experts believes he should go. Most experts had a 3rd, maybe even a 4th round grade on Jones. The consensus big board, which pulls together rankings from dozens of experts, didn't even have him in its top 85 players. So for the Bears to use a valuable second-round pick, number 57 overall on him, well, to the outside world, it felt like a massive miscalculation. But here's where things get really interesting, and it's why we're doing this deep dive. Was this truly a misstep? Was it a panic move by a front office that was blinded by an obvious need on their depth chart? Or was there a completely different, maybe more sophisticated logic at play inside the Bears' war room? What if they saw something in Logan Jones, some key traits for their specific system that the public draft analysts completely missed? Let's peel back the layers and look at the rationale behind what the Bears will tell you was a very, very calculated decision. This slide right here perfectly illustrates the disconnect between the public perception and what was probably the Bears' internal reality. If you look at that left column, you've got all the criticisms we just covered, the consensus reach and the concerns about his age and his size. But now look over at the right column, at the accolades. These are not minor details, folks. First off, he was the 2025 Remington Trophy winner. For those who don't know, that's basically the Heisman Trophy, but it's specifically for the best center in the entire nation. It is the highest honor his position can achieve in college football. Second, he was a team captain at Iowa. Now, this isn't just any program. Iowa is affectionately known as O-Line U, a literal factory that consistently produces elite, pro-ready offensive linemen like Tristan Wirfs and Tyler Linderbaum. So that leadership role in that specific program, known for discipline and toughness, carries immense weight with NFL scouts. So this brings us right to the heart of the strategy. Think of it like a real estate auction. When there's only one house on the market that perfectly fits all of your needs, you don't just sit back and hope it's still there in a week, right? No, you make a strong, decisive offer to take it off the market immediately. The Bears looked at the shallow talent pool for centers, and they knew that if they didn't take Jones at pick 57, there was no way he would still be there when they picked again late in the third round. Rival teams like the Packers or the Vikings, who also had needs on the interior line, could have easily snapped him up. The Bears identified their guy, the Remington winner, the Iowa captain who fit their scheme, and they decided the premium of a second-round pick was a price worth paying to guarantee they got their man. So that's the story of the high-investment, calculated reach. A high-cost move to secure a player they believe can be a foundational piece. But that's only half of the puzzle. An intelligent front office doesn't just spend big, it also has to find bargains. So now we're going to pivot to the other side of the coin, the hunt for hidden gems after the draft is over. This is where the real scouting prowess is tested, because when that final 257th pick is announced, the work is really just getting started. The moment the draft officially ends, what's known in league circles as the 8th round begins. And it is a chaotic, high-stakes frenzy where all 32 teams are on the phone, with GMs and scouts making these rapid-fire offers, scrambling to sign the best players who didn't get their names called. These are the undrafted free agents, or UDFAs. And while they don't get the headlines or the fancy jerseys on a draft stage, this is where legendary careers can begin. I mean, Hall of Famer Kurt Warner was a UDFA bagging groceries before he got his shot. So were Pro Bowl stars like Tony Romo and Adam Thielen. It's the ultimate market for finding undervalued assets, and it's a critical part of building a deep, competitive 90-man roster for training camp. And you know, Bears fans don't have to look very far back in history for a perfect example of this. Just a few years ago, the team signed a quarterback named Tyson Bagent as a UDFA. He came out of a small Division II school called Shepherd University. Nobody knew who he was a complete long shot, an afterthought really. But he came into camp, impressed the coaches with his moxie and his accuracy, made the team, and when he was called upon because of an injury, he played well enough to win games and earn a multi-million-dollar contract extension. He is the perfect embodiment of the UDFA dream, a genuine hidden gem that the Bears scouting department unearthed through sheer diligence. This brings us to the Bears' big UDFA swing this year, a move that perfectly encapsulates that low-risk, high-reward philosophy of team building. In a league that has recently fallen in love with a phenomenon known affectionately by fans as the thicker kicker, the Bears decided they needed to find their own. So they went out and signed one of the most talked-about, physically unique, undrafted players to come out of college football this year, hoping to find a long-term weapon at a specialist position. And here he is. On the left side of your screen, you see the Bears' current, reliable veteran kicker, Cairo Santos. He's listed at 5'8", 173 pounds, a very normal, typical build for an NFL kicker. And on the right, meet Gabriel Placencia, out of San Diego State. He's 6 feet tall and weighs a staggering 230 pounds. The difference is, to put it mildly, shocking. He's nearly half a foot taller and almost 60 pounds heavier than the man he's competing with for a job. Let's just let that number sink in for a second. 230 pounds. That is not a typo on your screen. Gabriel Placencia is built less like a place kicker and more like the linebackers he's about to share a locker room with. In fact, he's heavier than some starting safeties in the league. Now, this isn't just a fun fact, it's what makes him such a fascinating prospect. That kind of mass, combined with the proper mechanics, could in theory translate to incredible power and distance on his kicks, a true strategic advantage in field position and long-range scoring opportunities. This unique physique immediately puts him in the conversation for that fan-bestowed and frankly highly coveted title of thicker kicker. It's a fun moniker that was made famous by the Rams' Harrison Mavis, who weighs in at a mighty 245 pounds. And, as Bears fans might painfully remember, it was Mavis who knocked them out of playoff contention with a walk-off 54-yard field goal a couple of seasons ago. So there's a little bit of irony in the Bears now pursuing their own version of that kind of powerful weapon. But it is absolutely critical to understand this isn't just a novelty act. The Bears didn't sign him just because he's a big guy who creates a fun story. They signed him because he can actually play. Look at these numbers from college. He was deadly accurate, connecting on nearly 88% of his field goal attempts. For context, anything over 85% in a college career is considered elite. Now sure, the critics will correctly point out that it was on a relatively small sample size of just over 40 attempts, but that high percentage proves that the fundamental skill and the repeatable technique are there to go along with the raw, natural power his frame provides. And this move is just a perfect example of smart, proactive roster management. The Bears love Cairo Santos for his clutch accuracy inside of 40 yards, but he's 34 years old and has well-known limitations with his leg strength. He's nearly automatic from short range, but anything beyond 50 yards becomes a major question mark, often forcing the offense to punt instead of even attempting a long field goal. In today's NFL, that's a competitive disadvantage. So bringing in a young cannon leg like Placentia on an undrafted free agent deal is the definition of a no-risk move. It's a non-guaranteed minimum contract. He'll cost them almost nothing to bring to training camp and evaluate. If he doesn't work out, they lose nothing. But if he does, well, they might have just found their kicker for the next decade. So let's bring it all together. We have the controversial, high-priced draft pick in Logan Jones, and we have the no-cost, heavyweight lottery ticket in Gabriel Placentia. Two rookies, two players at the very start of their NFL journeys, entering the league through completely different doors with vastly different expectations. So what does this tale of two players tell us about the overarching team-building philosophy being implemented there in Chicago? What it reveals is a clear and really intelligent barbell strategy to roster building. On one end of the barbell, you've got the Logan Jones move, a safe, heavy, high-cost investment. You use your premium draft capital to solve a critical, immediate need at a key position. It's all about securing a solid floor for your team. On the other end of the barbell, you have the Gabriel Placentia move, a low-cost, high-upside flyer. You use minimal resources to take a chance on a player with a unique, game-changing trait that could pay off massively in the future. That's about raising your team's ceiling. By balancing these two distinct approaches, the Bears are addressing both the present and the future. Now, if you're enjoying this breakdown of NFL strategy, make sure you hit that subscribe button for NFL Nexus and ring the bell so you never miss one of our deep dives. And let us know in the comments which of these two moves you think was smarter. And so that's the ultimate question we're left with, and it's one we'll be tracking over the next few seasons. Which bet will ultimately pay off more for the Chicago Bears? The calculated reach for the short thing at a position of need, or the free roll on the heavyweight lottery ticket with a rare physical gift? The battle for roster spots and playing time in the NFL is one of the most fierce competitions in sports, and the path to success is never guaranteed for any rookie, drafted or not. It is going to be absolutely fascinating to watch which of these two players carves out a more impactful career in Chicago. Thank you for joining us on NFL Nexus. If you found this analysis valuable, please give this video a like. It really helps the channel out. And for all the football fans with young ones, or if you're just a kid at heart, don't forget to check out our custom NFL-themed coloring books. They are a great way to share the love of the game. You can find the link in the description below or by scanning the QR code on your screen right now. We'll see you next time.